Good, happy Sunday evening. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Sunday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Sunday evening, so let's begin. First up, let's take a look at your COVID-19 dashboard from Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. And here is a look at that COVID-19 dashboard from Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. Your global cases are 135,808,767. Your U.S. cases are 31,194,445. Your global deaths are 2,934,202. And your U.S. deaths are 562,062. That is a look at your COVID-19 dashboard from Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. Now let's get to your other news. First up, investigation into rare cases of blood clots with the J&J vaccine. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Whether you're curling or crunching, running or riding, lifting or lunging, balance it all out with some ice-cold...
Joining us now is the director of the Maine Center for Disease Control, Dr. Neerav Shah. Thanks so much for being with us. Maine just saw the most vaccinations given in one day last week, but now you're going to see 88% fewer J&J vaccines this week. How does that impact your vaccination push?
Well, good morning, Yvonne. Thank you so much for having me on today. The decrease in J&J vaccine that we are going to be experiencing next week here in Maine and across the country, it's disheartening. Of course, we all would have wanted the same robust level of vaccine supply that we saw coming in this week. But this decrease, let's hope it's one that's temporary, a mid-course fluctuation that will hopefully rectify itself. We're not letting it slow us down here in Maine. In fact, starting tomorrow, we are launching the use of a mobile unit that will travel across rural parts of the state using the limited supply of J&J vaccine that we have to make sure that we are continuing our two goals, not just to vaccinate with velocity, but to also vaccinate with equity. That mobile unit will reach hard-to-reach parts of the state to make sure the vaccine is that much closer to the arms of folks who need them.
And you've praised the advantages of the J&J shot for Maine. It does not require ultra-cold storage. It's only one dose. It makes it ideal for those drive-through sites, to homebound Mainers and people who live in the state's rural areas, as you were just talking about. So my question is, who's most likely to feel the effects of the distribution change this week and potentially for the next several weeks?
Well, you raise a good question, which is how long will this decrease in the supply last for? And we're working with federal officials to get a better sense. But even the decrease that we are seeing this week was one that was planned. Our federal partners let us know not too long ago that there would be a decrease, and we were able to plan for it. I guess even the way I think about this is that the vaccination of the entire country is not a one-week effort. And so even though this upcoming week we'll be seeing less vaccine, we hope that will recover. All that being said, there will be effects. One of the programs that we have launched and that I was very proud of were our efforts to say vaccinate folks who are homebound. That may have to pause a bit. But, as I mentioned a moment ago, the introduction of a mobile unit across the state of Maine will mean that vulnerable, hard-to-reach Maine people will still have access to the J&J vaccine. We're going to be utilizing almost all of our J&J allocation in that mobile unit, so folks both in urban settings as well as in rural settings can get access to the vaccine.
Looking at the numbers that we're seeing right now, specifically in Michigan, I'm curious if that at all worries you, and if you're looking at anything else, any other numbers happening in the country that are of concern right now.
Eva, it's a concern. We too have been tracking what's unfolding in Michigan. We haven't seen that degree of an increase of cases in Maine, but it's certainly something we're concerned about. I think this is evidence of just how opportunistic and tenacious the virus is, and further evidence that although there is a light at the end of the tunnel, we are not out of the tunnel yet. We've got to keep pushing ahead with vaccinations until we are fully done.
Dr. Shaw, thank you so much. That reminder, we are not through this pandemic yet.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robert.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that is a good reminder. We are not through this pandemic yet. So do not let your guard down. Will Biden follow through with promise of police reform? Let's take a listen to that video and that report.
Find all the music you love.
The music is going to gut.
The president has been following this trial, but thus far, he has not proposed any new police reform measures. So let's bring in ABC's Mary Alice Parks. Mary Alice, good morning to you. Police reform was a campaign promise for Joe Biden. Should we expect any actual action here?
Yeah, good morning, Dan. The president often talks about meeting George Floyd's daughter, what an impact that made on him. But like you said, during the campaign, he pitched a police oversight board, said he would get it done in the first 100 days in office. We haven't seen that from the president or any real big push on police reform from this White House. We've seen states move on the issue just this week. Democrats in the state of Maryland overriding a veto there to put in place a police reform bill. But the big question, will anything come out of Washington? House Democrats on Capitol Hill did pass a bill named after George Floyd that would ban some of the most controversial policing practices. The president says that he supports that bill, but Dan, it just remains to be seen whether anything can be negotiated out of the Senate.
Let me ask you about another big political story on this Sunday morning. Congress is back in session tomorrow. Agenda item number 1, the Democrats' infrastructure bill. Is there any hope that this bill, the infrastructure bill, could get some bipartisan support, unlike the COVID relief bill?
Yeah, Dan, everyone's back into town, so these meetings really get going in earnest. They are serious now. The president tomorrow planning to invite Democratic and Republican leaders here to the White House to sit around a table and try to hash out some of these details. The president wants Republicans on board. You know, they're hoping to get a Republican vote on this infrastructure package. And there are a lot of Republicans who say they are willing to work on infrastructure, who say they're having meetings with some of President Biden's own cabinet officials. You know, it's no coincidence that the president has members of his cabinet who are former mayors and former governors out there trying to sell this package, talking about their direct experience, their understanding of what's needed in the states. But so far, Republicans are just firmly opposed to the president's ideas for paying for this all. You know, the president has said he wants to raise the corporate tax rate back closer to where it was before President Trump's tax cuts. And Republicans, you know, they helped put those tax cuts for corporations in place. They don't want to see them reversed.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for...
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Kids telling their stories during the pandemic. Let's take a listen to that video and that report from ABC News.
Pack up and pedal out with 2 liters of storage, minus the sweaty bag.
The power of storytelling and how some students are using it to deal with a painful chapter in their lives, living through this pandemic. Janae Norman has the story.
Everyone that comes to camp has this magical bracelet.
This morning, a ray of light for a community of 8th graders in the midst of what's easily the darkest year of their young lives, plagued by the pandemic and isolation at a time when developmentally they need socialization the most, many navigating losing loved ones to COVID-19.
For this group of children to be able to write their stories and tell their stories, and, you know, maybe that would be cathartic and healing to them as well.
Parents and teachers in Armonk, New York, now adopting the program Written Out Loud for the entire grade. Those young children set to join hundreds of students across the country in exploring the joy of storytelling. The nationwide organization encouraging kids to embrace their creativity as they learn their imagination knows no bounds.
As soon as you get them talking about their actual influences, the stories they love most, not just books, of course, but movies, TV shows, video games, one at a time. And they start just spouting absolute joy at the creative process, and they end up writing books in our program.
And thanks to Zoom, they're getting that personal connection many have been craving in an era defined by social distancing.
It's really nice to be able to talk to my friends and collaborate, and we even collaborate outside of the class.
And at the end of it all,
Oh my God.
Kids are walking away from the program with their own published books and just enough spark to light their passion for a lifetime.
I'm not sure if it's going to be a profession or just something fun, but I definitely want to continue writing.
And Written Out Loud has published over 500 storytellers across the country, and you could just see in that piece how excited the kids were when they were seeing their work come to life. Guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for that story, Janae.
Well, hey there, GMA fan.
Awesome story there. NASA reschedules the flight of Integrity Mars helicopter. Let's take a listen to that video and that report from ABC News.
Our first shoe was simple, it was beautiful, it was, as we say, the right amount of nothing.
NASA rescheduling the first experimental flight of Ingenuity Mars's helicopter from overnight to possibly later this week. Once the scientists fully understand the issue during testing that forced the delay, they're hoping to capture some unforgettable images. ABC's Gio Benitez has more.
It's a selfie like we've never seen before. The Mars rover Perseverance on the red planet, and right there on the left is the Mars helicopter Ingenuity. Perseverance sending back these images of Ingenuity testing its blades. This NASA animation showing what it could look like as Ingenuity becomes the first helicopter ever to take flight on another planet.
This is one of the earlier test builds of one of the blades.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
See?
I mean, this is like paper.
Exactly. Yet, it is strong enough for you to spin it through this very thin atmosphere at 2,400 revolutions per minute.
Mimi Ong is the project manager for NASA's Ingenuity Mars helicopter.
So this entire helicopter you're seeing from the top, little antenna to solar panel to the rotor system, fuselage and the landing legs, everything that has to lift has to weigh less than 4 pounds.
Ingenuity will have to fly entirely on its own, with almost no atmosphere, after surviving dangerously cold nights, negative 130 degrees. And if it works, it'll set the stage for a new way of exploring other planets, while capturing some epic images.
And there will, of course, be the first ever images ever taken from an aerial vantage point on, from a flying rotorcraft.
This is the ultimate drone shot, right? No other drone shot will match this drone shot. Like a proud but cautious brother, Perseverance will watch and record Ingenuity's historic flight from a distance, about 200 feet away. For Good Morning America, Gio Benitez, ABC News on planet Earth.
Thank you for the clarification. Terrestrial location.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. UK in official period of mourning for a week. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
The latest on the royal family's plans for the funeral of Prince Philip. The pandemic lockdown is forcing the royals to scale back, and ABC's Maggie Rulli is right there at Buckingham Palace this morning. Maggie, good morning to you.
Hey, Dan, good morning. Yeah, here in London, we're now officially in countrywide mourning for a week. That flag behind me, you see it on top of Buckingham Palace. It will stay at half-mast until the day after Prince Philip's funeral, which the palace has announced will be next Saturday at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. This morning, we heard from members of the royal family speaking about Prince Philip for the first time since he passed away, calling him the nation's grandfather, and saying right now they're here to support their mom, the Queen.
Thinking of others before herself. She's
as always.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
but bearing up. But again, you know, it's just that wave of affection for him and just those lovely stories. They just mean so much. And you know, the tributes have been just fantastic, and that's really, really important, and we really do appreciate it.
We'll be hearing more details about that ceremony later this week, but we do know that because of current coronavirus restrictions, it's going to be a much smaller, quieter event. A maximum of just 30 people are allowed, so we expect it to be only close family and friends, which we now know will include Prince Harry. He has confirmed he'll be here in the UK to say a final goodbye to his grandfather, but he won't be here with his wife Meghan. Right now she's pregnant with their second child and says she's been advised by doctors not to fly. But guys, you know, whatever the guest list, it is going to be a day for the entire country to mourn and to celebrate Philip's life. The prince's coffin will be carried toward the chapel by a modified Land Rover that the prince himself helped to design. Prince Charles will lead the family procession that follows behind him, and he'll be flanked by members of the military there saluting one of their own. The palace also announced that the Queen's decided her family will mourn her beloved husband for a full 2 weeks. Guys.
And Maggie, as you noted, they're a smaller, much more intimate setting as well. Thank you again for your reporting.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And we're going to switch gears now. Let's go into weather. And here's a live look at the radar for all of you for this Sunday evening. As you can see, we're seeing some rain over here. And then in Canada, there's some snow. And then there's a big pile of rain all across this whole section of the United States, as you can see. And then some rain down below in Florida, as you can see as well. Otherwise, mainly dry all in this whole center of the United States and up here by Maine and New Hampshire as well. And that is a look at your weather for this Sunday evening. And that does it for this Sunday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching. Have a great Sunday evening, everyone. See you back here tomorrow for another broadcast. Good night and goodbye.